Hey everyone, my name is Miriam, and today I want to talk to you about generational blessings, generational curses, and generational patterns, all right? So if you have been experiencing spiritual warfare, this video is for you. If you're tired of feeling on the defeated side, or you're discouraged, or maybe you are even noticing delay, let me tell you, I began to notice issues with my mental health, and I'm like, y'all, I'm a coach, I'm a therapist, this really don't make no sense. I noticed issues that were just very strange in my marriage, with my children, my finances, even when I was pregnant last year, y'all. Everything was fine. Even delivery was fine. But suddenly there was attack on me, even in my health, that I was in an ambulance. I'm like, y'all, this is really strange. And the thing is, y'all, when you really begin to experience spiritual warfare, many times you will notice it in your mental health first, because when the enemy wants to destroy us, it's through deception. He wants to attack your peace of mind. And also, say another way that he'll try to attack your peace of mind is by creating disruption and discord in those that are closest to you. So if you're married, it would be with your spouse many times. It could be with your own parents, your relatives, family members, your siblings. It could be with your children. It could be with your in-laws. Maybe if you're single, again, it could be in your family, friendships, church members. It could be with your coworkers. Again, maybe you have put all the work in and it's like, why am I experiencing so many financial issues? I feel like I'm robbing Peter to pay Paul. I've worked so hard for this degree. When it's strange, many times it is spiritual. So I just want to break down the differences between a generational curse and a generational pattern. And I'm going to be referring to my notes just to make sure I cover all the bases. Okay. All right. Because we're going to hit a home run. All right. So these are things, generational curses are things that have been passed down in your family. So if you're not careful, it could hold you back, especially for those that are experiencing delay. You're like, hold on, there's greatness on the inside of me. I am too smart and brilliant to be broken and to be where I am now. I'm supposed to be building something. I'm supposed to be in my promised land. Okay. So God not only wants to get us out of Egypt, but we need deliverance from our bloodline, these issues, sins, things that didn't even start with you, but they can stop with you. And I'm going to be saying that a lot because some of you are actually struggling with things that you didn't even do. They didn't even begin with you. They began before you. People who were sin. So what we do understand with sin, y'all, is there are consequences. Y'all, God is so merciful. He is so loving. And Jesus came and he died for us over 2,000 years ago, not so we could be in bondage, but really so we could conform to his image. But as we are born into this world, like David said, I was conceived in sin. I was born into sin, right? So then we become born again. All right. We become born again when we accept God, when we accept Jesus as the Lord of our life. We say, Lord, you died for me. That this former self, I want to die as well. I don't want to just continue to deal with this world or with my flesh the same way that I have been. I really want to be developed, right? But with generational curses, it's so important for you to take inventory on what is happening in your life, because some of the things, again, that you are experiencing is because someone before you sinned. And now there's a consequence to your household. I'll even use David as an example. David committed murder. He slept with someone's wife, right? And then he killed that person. I mean, this is sin. God forgave him. God was merciful, right? So we even can see, Jesus, even before Jesus came, like this is mercy. God said, okay, but even the child that was conceived ended up passing away, sadly, as a result of David's sin. And God forgave him. But even in that forgiveness and God's mercy, he did say, because you raised a sword, there's going to be a sword in your household. And we see how David's son began, one of his children, sorry, his name slips my mind at this moment, wanted to fight David for his throne. And then we also see another son that slept with his sister within, which was incest right in the household. So we see how that generational issue of lust and perversion and even murder passed down to his children. So his children were struggling with things that didn't start with them, y'all. It had started with David. So it's not to like, as you're taking inventory and you're assessing, like, I'm struggling with lust. I'm struggling with finances. I'm struggling with mental health issues. Like everybody, my grandma had depression. My mother was depressed. And now I'm not only depressed, I'm suicidal. My child is now, mutilating herself. She's doing self-harm. Y'all, that's spiritual. It's not just like a genetic disposition. And yeah, genetic dispositions have its place, so much so that even your doctor will come to you and will say, fill out this form. All right. Who had this? Did somebody have diabetes? Did somebody have a heart condition? They're doing that because they want to bring awareness and they want to reveal what they are not aware of. They want you to reveal what they are not aware of so that they can treat something or be proactive about your health care so that you can be whole in their care. They want to make sure you're being medicated. They want to know what to look out for because they understand genetic things and illnesses that can be passed down simply by means of your bloodline, right? So how much more do we need to be aware of these spiritual things that could be causing issues for you today that didn't even start with you? So whether or not, you have made mistakes and things like that, many times it's linked to something that began before you. If you're struggling with alcohol, if you're struggling with addictions, fornication, promiscuity, with anxiety, y'all, so much of that. It started before you, but it can stop with you. All right. So that being said, let's also refer to Abraham in the Bible. Before he was Abraham, he was Abram. And he was traveling with Sarai, who we now know as Sarah, and they were being sort of interrogated, and he lied. And he was like, oh, she's not my wife. This is my sister, because he thought, his life was going to be taken away if that was his wife or whatever the case was. So he ended up giving her up, which is so sad, to the guards or whatever. And so we look at that, right? That's lie, that's deceit. Now we even look at Isaac, his Abraham's son lied. Isaac's son, Jacob, he also lied. He stole Esau's birthright. Not only that, we even see the consequence and how that manifested through Laban, his father-in-law, where Jacob is working and he's working and he's working. And some of y'all are working and working and working. And it's like there's a devouring spirit that is attached to your finances. It's like, you get your paycheck and suddenly something happens with the car. You get your paycheck, something happens with the house. You get your paycheck and now you got to pay a hospital bill. It's like, oh my goodness, what, where was this bill? It was from 5 years ago, so it's so interesting. So that's what happened with Jacob. Laban was like just taking and devouring, things or whatever. So there's a generational curse of lies and deceit that's being passed down so clearly, y'all. Y'all see that generational issue, that generational curse and the consequences attached to that. So that's an example of that. Now let's even look at, again, I just want you to think of your finances, think of your relationships as I'm talking about this stuff, your health. All these things did not start with you, especially let's even just stop for a minute and look at health issues. You're going to different doctors. I mean, you're puzzled and they're puzzled. I mean, they're having like all of these like question marks on their, on the top of their head, like a little cartoon. They're putting you on all these different medications and they're trying to figure you out. Maybe you're even feeling like a guinea pig. Like you just put me on this medication, you're doing this and this and that. Or even if it's a mental health condition, your psychiatrist is putting you on Cymbalta and then putting you on anti-anxiety, lorazepam, and putting you on this. And I know this because I'm a therapist and I have so many clients that come to me and their psychiatrist has sent them because we can't medicate something that's spiritual. We have to evict something that is spiritual. We have to cast out an evil spirit. I can't medicate a demonic thing. Now, yeah, medicine has its place, whether it's for your health, mental health. I'm not against medication or anything like that, but I'm just saying, it's important, again, for you to address a spiritual issue in a spiritual way, okay? And that is through prayer. All right, so how do we address it? We're going to renounce. You address generational curses with renouncing. That means you are rejecting and you are turning away from sin. And you're asking forgiveness not only for yourself, but for those that sinned even before you in your bloodline. Because in your bloodline is in your family line is a familiar spirit that is following, and they're looking for ways to just pretty much trap you, right? If I even, in just some transparency, I shared this in one of my books. Like I had my child out of wedlock, and this is no judgment against anybody because everybody has sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. You are loved. Look, Jesus knew every sin that you were going to commit. And he's like, I love you. I choose you. You're chosen. Okay. And it wasn't just me. When I really began to realize it wasn't just me. I was talking to my mom one day and she was like, okay, my oldest brother was had before she got married. And I believe the same thing was with my grandma. So these things don't just happen by coincidence. It's introduced, and then we're born into a certain foundation, which is why we're then born again. And now we're on the foundation of Jesus Christ and we have to conform. So I'll talk about that anyways. But so we need to renounce. Okay. Renouncing has its place where we need to reject, right? Reject the sin, reject the mindset and all that came with the sin, whatever is causing it, we're renouncing. I want no part of fornication. I want no part of pornography. I want no part of doing drugs. I renounce, abortion. I renounce financial difficulties. I renounce mental health disorders or any agreement that I've come into with this is the way I am. I renounce that. And I Lord, forgive me. So that's how we handle generational curses. So now there are also generational patterns. So these aren't necessarily tied to sin like curses are, but in some way there's still a relationship, but they come from what you have seen and what you have observed. So it's interesting because many times we'll be doing stuff in front of our kids, right? And it's like, y'all don't do this. So we're wanting them to do what we say, but kids don't just do what you say. They watch what you do and they observe and they absorb. So many of us are replicas as adults of what we observed with our own parents. We even begin to date and find a partner in accordance with what we saw. We align ourselves with the adults that we were growing up with. And now we're misaligned as adults. We're misunderstood. We don't even understand ourselves. And that is also a plight or device of the enemy, is so that you are confused, that you are delayed, that you don't know who you are. He wants you to live life abusively. It's interesting because John 10:10 says, the thief comes not only but to steal, kill, and destroy. But I have come, meaning Jesus came, that you may have life and life more abundantly. So the enemy wants you to live life abusively. So what he does is he's like, I don't care how kids your cute are. He wants to cripple us as children. I experienced sexual trauma. Right? I was confused. And then I didn't have healthy boundaries. I developed all this people-pleasing behavior. There's also friends, and because kids can be really mean, right? So, getting bullied and, oh, you're so lame and, you're not cool and this and that. And now I'm internalizing, and these are seeds that were growing in me. And just when you imagine a seed, we're thinking of something that's so nice. But look, there are some things that grow up like weeds that need to be uprooted. So imagine all the weeds that are growing up with us. And now we enter into these relationships, and now we're cussing each other out and we're fussing at each other and we're just hurting people, right? These are things that we saw, and not just saw, we absorbed it. And now that's on the inside of us. So we begin a generational pattern. Maybe in your family, there's generational divorces that you see happening. So you may get the man, you may get the woman, but people can't keep them because we're still keeping hurt. We're still keeping the old version of ourselves because of a mindset issue. Because Okay, and here's another example. One thing that I learned growing up is if someone is irritated, I'm not going to tell them, what I need, because I don't want to deal with that irritation. So then I learned to compartmentalize, because I didn't want to, be seen as complaining, right? I saw irritation and that dynamic with my parents growing up. So I grew up with that in me. So even in my own marriage, I didn't have healthy communication. And the time that I would communicate was when I went from 0 to 10. So now my catalyst is anger. Instead of taking healthy action and being proactive, I was connected to a toxic precedent, right? So that is a pattern that can definitely land you towards divorce, because even the top 3 reasons why people divorce has to do with what? Communication, sex, and finances. Y'all, even finances, that's a generational pattern. My mom took out loans. It was hard for her to save money and keep money in, even have a savings account. And when she did, she was constantly dibbling from it, So I was hearing and I was seeing, and I even started working, which is, I developed good work ethic, at a very young age, but 13, 14, I'm helping with paying certain bills, and which y'all, it really helped build my character. It made me the woman that I am today. I'm so thankful. But I'm just saying that financial struggle and all of that was a part of my generational pattern and genealogy. My grandma struggled with, finances, and even there being constant provision from her spouse, and he was doing all kinds of things as well. So that being said, y'all, there are generational issues and patterns that you're struggling with. And it could be related to communication, how you handle finances. So we deal with these things 2 ways, right? Generational curses, we renounce, we ask for forgiveness, and we need to evict that spirit that is that has attached itself, that is also making your journey heavier. Some of you are dealing with mental illnesses, and it's actually a spirit of heaviness. It's a spirit of fear. God said, I didn't give you a spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. So when you evict that spirit, it's like walking on a journey and having a heavy bag on you that you don't actually need, that now you release it and it's no longer on you, on your temple. So you're feeling lighter again. You're having clarity. You're understanding your power. You're understanding your purpose, and you're walking in that thing, right? And with generational patterns, it's allowing yourself to get new information about who you are. And you got to know whose you are. Look, the family that you were born into isn't necessarily indicative of who you are. God knows who you are. So it's about returning to the manufacturer. And he said, I make everything beautiful in its time. Let me tell you, it is your time to be made beautiful. And he wants to heal everything on the inside of you. He said, I want you to prosper even as your soul prospers. There are so many issues within your soul. And our soul is your mind, will, and emotions, right? We are feeling so emotionally dysregulated, so distracted, all of those things. But he's like, no, I want you to return to like homeostasis, like your baseline. Your baseline is power, love, and a sound mind. Okay. So God wants us to, surrender to him. And when you surrender to him, you are being conformed to his image. You're releasing the mindset. You are unlearning all that toxic stuff, gaslighting, invalidation, waiting until the last minute to ask for what you need, saying things out of anger, cursing each other out, just spending everything in your wallet. Those are all things that you've learned that you now unlearn, and you conform to the kingdom and how we handle things in the kingdom, right? When we're in our kingdom assignment, in our kingdom identity, we do things completely differently. It's a complete 360 and transformational change that not only touches your mind, but everything connected to you. And I just love how Joyce Meyer says, when you want to change your life, it begins with changing your mind. mind. So for generational patterns, we repent. So repentance and forgiveness is two different things. With repentance, we are changing our mind. We're allowing new information to come in, and then we implement. Because knowledge without implementation is just a rumor. But knowledge with implementation leads to transformation. So when you begin to do this, you are welcoming generational blessings. You're saying no more to the old. God is doing a new thing with me. It's literally like a caterpillar, right? It's like you think that many times we think that that's how we are. You know, we're seeing ourselves in our limitations. We're leaning onto our own understanding. We think that this is just as good as life is going to get. And what's inside of us is what begins to select, and we begin to settle for things that are not even for us, you know, but God has a perfect will for you. And not only do we need to recognize that, we need to receive that and renew our minds on a daily basis so that we're seeing ourselves through the way he sees us, not how people saw us, not how those exes saw you and they spoke, you know, certain limitations on you. They said that you will never be anyone. Friends walked away from you. It's okay, because when God puts that caterpillar in a cocoon, it is a natural separation that prepares you for the best that is yet to come. Because with separation, there is now elevation. So he wants you to evolve. And that's why we use the word to wash us, not only wash us, but to fill us. And the word brings light. So anything that is dark on the inside of you cannot even stay, because you're being filled up with light, and now you're being charged up and you're empowered, and now you become victorious because you understand that you're on the winning side when you're on God's side. Jesus already defeated everything, but now by faith, we receive what he has done, and we begin to see that new thing happening in our lives. So y'all, that being said, I want to really encourage you to get this book right here. It didn't start with me, but it stops with me. Say it with me, y'all. And even type it in the chat below. It didn't start with me, but it stops with me. Y'all, this book, God gave me a very strong revelation on John 10:10. Not only are you going to reclaim what has been stolen, but you're walking into generational blessings. And this is 10 days of strong, powerful, targeted deliverance prayers that are not only going to set you free, but it's going to set your whole household and your generation free. It's not enough for me to just go and pray, you know, maybe daily, but I don't have an aim. No, when you are praying daily, you are going in with a mission, understanding that your prayer is going to hit every missile that the enemy has been sending your way. And it's going to destroy that missile. And it's also going to destroy the enemy that's been coming up against your marriage, your mind, your finances, your children. I mean, and God is also healing you. This is a time where you're spending with God. Not only that, you know, you're standing on your power and your authority, right? We're praying strategically. But in this book, y'all, we're dealing with the generational curses, but also the generational patterns, the mind, right? We need to renew the mind. I don't want to just evict the enemy. I need to evolve now. It's not enough just for me to leave Egypt. I need to get to my promised land. Okay. So I need deliverance in my mind to get me to promised land. And so there are these video guided meditations that are going to help evolve, that are going to help you really receive the identity of Christ in you so that you can walk in a new way. I'm going to receive new information and I'm going to implement as well. So y'all, this book is so powerful. It's literally twofold. You're addressing both issues, the issues of spiritual causes, but also the development that is needed to get you to your promised land. The link is in the description below. Like, share, and subscribe, because it's going to help the algorithm. It's going to help get this video to people who need it. You all, I'm Miriam. Take care. Bye.